Jesus Christ, guys. Okay, Jesus Christ, guys. Guys, before we get started with today's episode, I just wanted to let you know that I have started a new channel. Yeah, I'm going down this weird YouTube route where I have like 1,000 different channels.
Fantano style.
Fetch the bolt cutters.
Click the link below. I will be doing weirder, stupider stuff somehow.
Somehow stupider than this channel.
Oh, Christ, guys. Okay, so it's a new week. So you know what that means. A new Benny Pepeño. A new Benny Hupeño video. A brand new Benny Pendejo video. And this is a real interesting one. We're going to actually get into some deep stuff. We're going to get into some cultural issues here that I think all of us are interested in, actually. I ain't even trying to front right now.
Fetch the bolt cutters.
But first, we got to get into the... What is this one called? Shapiro reacts to anti-vax Barbie skit. So he's talking about, I don't know. Let's watch it.
If you're somebody who did not take the vax, it must be that you are essentially a Nazi. That is the case that Jimmy Kimmel was making on his show last night. His team produced a fake commercial from Mattel, anti-vax Barbie.
Shopping. I'm sorry, you can't come in here without a mask. I have a medical condition.
Okay, pause it there for a second. So again, the entire idea here is that, I mean, every single objection here is crazy, right? If you said I have natural immunity, Barbie, that obviously wouldn't have the same effect. Also, I'm noticing that in this little play-acted skit in which the anti-masker walks into a store and is asked to put on the mask, it is the anti-masker who goes crazy. Most of the videos I've seen are kind of the opposite. Most of the videos that I have seen are people who walk into a store not wearing a mask, and a person starts screaming at them and yelling at them. That's typically what I have seen. It's also what I've experienced. I mean, I recently was on a flight from New Jersey to Florida. And on that flight, I was eating some popcorn. And the stewardess came by and she looks at me and she goes, "You need to put up your mask between bites." I'm like, between bites? That's going to save us all. Between bites.
So Benny Pepeño's talking about this James Kimmel sketch, which, look, I don't know what's going on the Jimmy Kimmel show because I have the internet, okay? I don't watch late night TV anymore. Just like everyone else. I guess a fair criticism would be that the sketch is a little bit mean, all right? The people who are freaking out about anti-vax stuff, a lot of these anti-vax people are consuming a lot of media. They're consuming a lot of media and being targeted for a lot of media and da-da-da-da-da. So maybe it's me. We can say it's mean to make fun of them in that way. Maybe. That would be fair. The people who I have no problem making fun of are the people who are... the Benjamin Q. Tostino, Benjamin P. Shapiros of the world. I got no problem making fun of them because they're just skimming that crazy money off the top. Alex Jones, too, also. As much as I fully believe he's the greatest broadcaster of all time, boy, oh boy, is he making a lot of money on those scam supplements. Okay, but that out of the way, the funny part of this, just the great, hilarious part of this, he's like, I haven't seen those videos. Jimmy Kimmel saying in the sketch that people freak out about wearing masks, and he's like, I never seen that. I never seen videos like that. Yeah, I wonder if that has anything to do with you living in a totally algorithmically generated media bubble.
Oh, shocker. I live in a media bubble. Shocker. It's confirmed all the things that I already believe. Beep boop. Beep boop. YouTube eyes engaged. Beep boop. YouTube viewing eyes engaged. Enlarge video. Enhance. Video enhance. 200%.
But the far funnier and the far better thing here is that some lady came up to Ben Pepeño. You know, he's sitting in first class on a plane. And
and on that flight, I was eating some popcorn. And the stewardess came by and she looks at me and she goes, "You need to put up your mask between bites." I'm like, between bites?
He's doing this. And some flight attendant comes up to him. I've been on a couple flights in the past couple months. Showing off, yeah. Maybe I am. Okay.
Pendejo.
I've been on a couple flights. I have not seen anything like this. I see people eating their little treats and their little snacks and their little Laura Dune cookies or whatever, drinking their little Sprites, all this stuff. Never seen a flight attendant give them a hard time. However, what I do think happened here is that Ben Shapiro got recognized. I think it might be what happened here, which is exactly what I would do if I was a flight attendant, would be to make his life miserable. Him sitting in first class.
Get me a towel. Get me a towel to lay on my face, on my eyes, to get my beautiful skin ready for my next segment.
I would do everything in my power to make it the worst flight he's ever been on in his life. Yeah, hi, Mr. Shapiro. I'm a big fan. Actually, there's a little problem for safety reasons. We're going to have to move you back to the back of coach. And someone from there you're going to have to switch seats. He's like, no, I will not. Oh, I'm really sorry, Mr. Shapiro. It's an FAA thing, so we're going to have to get your ass back there. Going to have to get that ass back there.
Jimmy Kimmel is the woke pope of late-night comedy who's violated every stricture of wokeness, but has somehow survived because he's a lapdog for the Democratic Party. On a pure humor level, I'm just wondering what makes this funny.
Yeah, this is the kind of fascinating thing about...
Pendejo!
Sorry, Benjamin.
Pendejo!
And a lot of these guys is that they're kind of... I mean, this is a thing that's been going on for a while, is they're adopting this kind of anti-establishment. Anti-establishment. Yeah, that guy's just a puppet for the Democratic Party. Not me, though. Are you familiar with the movie The Warriors? Because I'm very similar to one of those guys. He's basically saying, like, this guy, part of what makes him not funny, and part of what makes this just not interesting, is that this guy's just saying, he's just coloring right in within the lines of the, the liberal, the consensus, the Democratic Party line. He's just coloring right within those lines. That's not very interesting. And there's truth to that, of course, but again, I would urge Ben Shapiro to watch his own program.
That's how you protect yourself from tyranny. And so that's what I wanted to do my whole life.
What a pervert.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Hey, and welcome. This is the Ben Shapiro Show Sunday Special. We're joined by Senator Ted Cruz. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, you know what I hate? I hate when people take my data. And
seems like the only rights they respect are the rights of these criminals that are able to get away with a lot. So I think the distinction between a liberal, quote, state and a state like Florida has probably never been so stark because of all the issues we've dealt with over the last 2 years.
For sure. I mean, it bust wide open during COVID. But I think it's important to note that you very narrowly squeaked past Andrew Gillum in that last gubernatorial election, and then you quickly started consolidating support.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy just towing the line for the corporate Democratic Party. By the way, I do the exact same thing, just for the other party.
Okay, well, hell yeah. I'm just starting to get into this video. Here we go.
Just a bunch of screed headlines taken directly from Slate.
Yes.
And then plopped into a Barbie. Okay.
Agreed.
But I guess we're supposed to pretend that this guy is funny.
We'll
get to
next?
more on this in just one moment. First, using the internet without ExpressVPN, well, that's like leaving your laptop.
This is an 8-minute video with a 1-minute ad. I gotta just squeeze every dime out of these idiots. I gotta squeeze it.
Ben Shapiro Show, and you can get an extra 3 months for free. ExpressVPN.com/Ben Shapiro Show. Speaking of propagandists, MSNBC now has a new weekend host. You ready for this? Who is it? Simone Sanders. So Simone Sanders went directly from being a press secretary for Bernie Sanders to being a press secretary for Kamala Harris to having a show on MSNBC. Now imagine if Sean Spicer had left the Trump administration and immediately been granted a weekend show on Fox News. Or Kayleigh McEnany had left the Trump administration and been given a full-on weekend show on Fox News. A lot of people would have been like, well, that seems kind of propagandistic, does it not?
It must be so odd to be Ben Shapiro because, like, just to summarize what he just said, all right? He's like, it's a little weird that these political campaigns, a lot of these people who work on these campaigns as, like, press people and all this stuff, they go on to work at, like, these corporate news outlets like MSNBC. That seems wrong. And he's talking about some lady who worked for the Sanders campaign and Kamala Harris. And he's like, that's weird. And he's kind of right. I mean, that does seem propagandistic. But remember, like, his solution to this is Republicans. Like the sewer rats I had on my show to promote Ron DeSantis and that other...
What a pervert.
That other guy who makes you say...
What a pervert.
Just these weird characters, these weird opportunists, these used car salesmen that he has on his show. That's the solution. That's the solution. The Republicans. By the way, this is a story from Insider from, I don't know, like a year or two or whatever ago. Former White House press secretary Stephanie Grisham says Fox News host Sean Hannity was like a shadow advisor to Trump. This is a guy on a very popular network television station. But Ben Shapiro's like,
There's corruption. There's corruption. So the solution is Trump.
must be so weird to be Ben Shapiro. Good, because I think he does know that what he's saying is absurd nonsense. This guy went to Harvard and all this crap. He just doesn't care. He's just like, just
Give me this. I need to get my hands on this. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
I don't care if what I'm saying like is just like incoherent. It's just like doesn't make sense. I don't care. Okay, this is totally unrelated. But this came up as a suggested video while I was doing this Pepino crap. While I was doing this Pepino barf of a video. While I was doing this research, as I call it. This video came up, and I see a video like this suggested all the time with basically the exact same headline. All right?
Dr. Fauci, the idea that a government official like yourself would claim unilaterally to represent science, that any criticism of you would be considered a criticism of science itself, is quite dangerous. Central planning, whether it be of the economy or of science, is risky because of the fallibility of the planner.
I think there needs to be some kind of a rule. I really mean this. This is sincere. I think there needs to be some kind of a rule where these senators, these U.S. senators, U.S. Congress people in general, but especially senators, I think, have to have real jobs. You know, like half the time, some large amount of time, they have to have real jobs. And I'm not talking about like, oh, I manage, you know, I'm a manager at a no, like they have to have full on, like they work as a server at a cheesecake factory or something. Because what does this guy do all day? Like there's so many videos of like this of Dr. Rand Paul confronts Dr. Fauci again. The return of the Fauci confrontation. After a while, I'm starting to get the inkling that this is they wheel these guys out for a little bit of theater every once in a while. Right? How many times are we going to do this? How many more media moments? How many more clips are we going to try to create with this waste of time?
Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky joins me now, member of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. But at one point, you did say to him, you are the person who is more responsible for the deaths in this country than anyone else. Do you think that's fair?
So the implications from these media moments that Rand Paul and Fauci are doing, the implication here is pretty serious. That this guy who strikes me as a kind of Mr. Magoo figure, to Anton Fauci, he coordinated some kind of global conspiracy to create on purpose a global pandemic. Very serious. So here's what we should do. And we're going to get a petition going for this. If Tony Fauci is not held to account for this through prison time, or he's wheeled out in handcuffs or one of those Hannibal Lecter, you know, like with the mask on, the whole deal. If Tony Fauci does not have some kind of something happens from all this crap that they're doing here, then Ron Paul goes to jail. Rand Paul goes to jail. They throw Rand Paul's ass in prison. There's got to be for all this tap dancing, there's got to be something has to happen, okay? So I say they pull up, and they throw this confused-looking motherfucker in prison, if all this is a BS baloney. How about that, moron? Like, you know, we've seen this little program, this little entertainment is getting a little boring. Let's raise the stakes a little bit. Somebody's going to jail. Somebody's going to jail from this hearing. Period. Okay, somebody's asked, and not just like a nice jail. Ooh,
I'm going to the tennis club jail.
or whatever. No, you're going to the same, whatever that Washington, D.C. prison that QAnon shaman guy.
According to the left, the exceptions should get to make all the rules on gender, crime, and marriage. Plus, the Chicago Teachers Union decides never to go back to school, and Joe Biden addresses the nation on the Omicron surge. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.
Perverts.
What a pervert. I may just never come back.
Today's show is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Thousands
Oh
of my
my
listeners
God.
have already
I'm
secured
not
their
buying-
internet. Join them.
No, stop it.
ExpressVPN.com.
Stop it. I'm not buying ExpressVPN, Ben. Stop.
There's a phenomenon that has now cropped up throughout American society. And that phenomenon is that we are supposed to let the exceptions make the rules. That if somebody just is very different from every other human, that person gets to make all the rules for all the other humans. I'm not talking about individual rights that apply to everyone, right? Rights that adhere to everyone. What I'm talking about here are specifically the overthrow of institutions that are generated for the benefit of the vast majority of human beings, and that, broadly speaking, bring success and happiness.
Oh, damn. Hell yeah. Benny on the street. Benny on the street. He's going to get into some cultural crap here. A cultural phenomenon. A cultural phenomenon that is affecting people in their daily lives and is making people's lives shitty. I like this. This is the kind of Benny I want to hear about. Yeah, let's get into it.
For eons. Right? This philosophy, which is that if you don't fit into the box must be changed, is the death of society. It is the death of society, and it is what is breaking down pretty much every institution in our society these days, from religious institutions to governmental institutions to basic institutions of life like marriage. They evolved gradually over time. Right? As the great economist Frederick Hayek suggests, wisdom is essentially just a bunch of, they've evolved, they've changed gradually over time, and so we should respect those things that have done this. It doesn't mean we can't change them, but it means we have to take some very serious thought about why we ought to change these institutions before we change them. Vanishingly small group of people have a problem with an institution. It's the institution that's wrong. The institution must...
Okay, so in lots and lots of minutes of talking, basically what he's saying is the left is trying to destroy the institution of marriage. I mean, we got a lot of talking to say exactly what I just said in 0.2 seconds. And by left, from what I've watched of his show, he means like Joe Biden and 15-year-olds on TikTok. So to prove this theory that the left, quote, the left is trying to destroy marriage, he found a New York Times article. So he went right to the furthest left source he could find, which is the communist, I believe it's an underground communist zine. I think it's a zine, the New York Times, to prove this point. So here we go.
The story of what the United States is, what it means to be a man or woman, what it means to be a child, what it means to love oneself or other people. We are imagining all of this again, so these stories can guide and comfort us rather than control us. That paragraph is leftism in a nutshell. We are reimagining, just out of our own heads. Poof. The complete reimagination, the complete destruction of all institutions and basic facts about human life.
So he's talking about a New York Times opinion guest essay called "What Does Marriage Ask Us to Give Up?" And I read this whole thing just because I'm stupid, because I'm a dumb moron. That's why. I read this piece of turd essay, and the whole essay is about a lady who got divorced, and she's like, marriage is not for everyone. That's literally, I'm summarizing the entire thing. Marriage is not for everyone. There's actually, we'll come back to this, but there have been a lot of annoying marriage-related articles in the New York Times lately that we'll look at, but that's pretty much it. It's a lady who got divorced, and she's like, it was kind of, when I was younger, it was a taboo for people to come from a divorced family, and, it shouldn't be. That's it.
Now, first of all, I think it's been a pretty long-standing feature of marriage that there are some people who don't enjoy it. And this is, again, not a surprise to anyone who has read the Bible, for example, in which there are fairly, a fair number of somewhat dysfunctional marriages, right? That is not a rarity. If you read biblical literature, so go back several thousand years, lots of failing marriages. That does not mean that marriage as an institution is bad.
I love this because he's like, look, just because there's some bad marriages That doesn't mean marriage as a whole is a bad institution. And I would say, yeah, that's very similar to one New York Times opinion writer doesn't represent that much more than herself, her own experience, which is reflected in the essay, which means that your whole segment here is, I don't want to say pointless. I wouldn't say that. But also, I guess more importantly, I read this entire stupid essay, and nowhere in the essay does she say she wants to destroy the institution of marriage. Like, it's just not in there.
But says this columnist for the New York Times, it's good to get rid of these institutions because she had a bad marital experience. The innate narcissism here is truly astonishing.
This is a quote from the article. It was harder in adulthood after years spent marinating in so many cultural stories about what marriage could promise. Legitimacy, maturity, stability, strength, to resist that programming. Marriage, of course, can be all those things to many people.
Marriage, of course, can be all those things to many people.
So I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's talking about, but no, I am saying that, actually. Okay, on and on, but of course, the way more interesting thing here is not him commenting on this article and saying, this is disgusting or whatever. The way more interesting thing is what him and people like him have been saying for decades and what he's kind of saying under the surface, which is that the problems we're having in society aren't wild inequality, sort of tangible things like healthcare and education and blah, 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 blah. Let's not look at that. Let's not look at that. What's really the deal is you got to get married. Okay, what's that going to do? Yeah, well, that's the key. How so? It just is. Now this, I feel like, is an interesting topic. Now we're in interesting territory here. Almost as interesting as
C.K. Louis, the comedian.
No more. So the whole marriage calculation is fairly straightforward if your brain is not rotted and demented. Here it is. Here's marriage in a nutshell, okay? You meet someone, you really like them, you want to get married, you get married. You do some calculation in your brain, you say, I don't want to get married. You don't get married. And either way, you kind of live with that decision for better or for worse, unless you get divorced, which the divorce rate always, we'll look at this on a graph in a second. The divorce rate always goes up when marriage goes up. This is a graph that this guy, really wonderful little graph to look at by this guy, Randy Olson, who just took this from like CDC data from, it's as it says here, 144 years of marriage and divorce in the US, and he put it on a graph. And it's actually really interesting to look at. I mean, first, right off the bat, the orange one is divorce, the blue one is marriage. You could see that, they go together. That's pretty predictable. It's sort of stupid right off the bat that he's talking about divorce and this lady kind of reckoning with her divorce because just according to data, the more marriages, the more divorce, blah, 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 blah. But what's really interesting about this graph here is that if we were to say, okay, Ben Prestino, okay, Ben Sustino, we want people to get married. Let's encourage people to get married. How do we do that? Okay, you win. We just got to get these pukes, these turds, these pieces of garbage married. How do we do that? We do see one big spike in marriage. I don't know if you guys could see that on the blue graph. World War II, post-World War II, big-ass baby boom times, bunch of people getting married also. Huge spike. Look, that's the most people I've ever been married in my whole life. This is early 1940s. This happened. Around 1945, 1944, it looks like. Something else happened during that time. And I'll give you guys a second to guess what it is. The GI Bill. The GI Bill happened during this time. Before I give a little explanation for the GI Bill, the GI Bill a quick way to summarize the quickest way to summarize it is all the things Ben Pepino hates. The GI sent more than 8 million World War II veterans to school between 1945 and 1956. It was signed by FDR in 1944, right around the time that marriage boom happened. It also backed home loans, gave veterans a year of unemployment benefits, and provided for veterans' medical care. I'll give you 1 second to guess who also benefited from this.
C.K. Louis.
Who?
C.K. Louis, the comedian.
Oh, the comedian, okay. The bill was a huge success, propelling Americans to new heights of education and helping fuel the economic blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, there were other factors, of course. I don't think like just the GI Bill was like, that's the response of that, just that alone, was it? No, I don't think that. But I think if you were going to try to encourage people to get married, you would maybe do something like this. Might work, might not work, but it seems like that's the only thing you got. Other than that, it would be just like, I don't know, making culture. It's just saying you got to get married on your right-wing blog or whatever. You got to get married, which they've been doing forever. In fact, mainstream media has been telling people to get married forever. Think back, actually, to one of the most popular movies. Just as an example, this is like the one that just popped into my head, but of course there's a limitless examples. One of the most popular movies, early 2000s. Remember Knocked Up? What's that guy's name? Seth Rogen or Joe Rogan? Which one is that guy? Which Rogan? The whole plot of that movie was, these people are just sort of going around, doing this.
That is my own sperm.
But then this lady got pregnant, and but hey, how about instead you get married? And they ended up together. And like one of the last shots in that movie is the guy like gets a normal job. He's like, I got a normal job now to support my family. That's been the mainstream narrative forever. Get married. So if the cultural thing is not working, if marriage rates are still going down, which if you see in the graph they have been since the 1980s. Then what else can you do? What else can you do? You could do arranged marriages, I guess. But actually, the only real purpose I can come up with for this, why to do a segment like this, especially coming from a certified lover boy, a certified right winger boy, is to just shift attention from real problems, which is all the healthcare, education stuff and all that makes social mobility kind of stuff harder, to shift that over to nope, people aren't getting married. That's the only reason I could come up with, the only kind of not totally nonsensical reason for doing this segment. This is from that same article that he's reading. It seemed obvious to me then, having lived in a two-parent home that was deeply unhappy and dysfunctional, that the numbers of parents around to make a working family was arbitrary. That people beholden to the rigid mathematics of mother and father and children equals stability were short-sighted, ignoring all we know of human interactions and ways we make family throughout human history. To believe that one equation would work for us all seems so simplistic and childish that for much of my young adulthood, I simply disregarded it. So there we go, guys. An odd young man who we make fun of in a, I would say, borderline ableist way. Sorry, on this channel.
Perverts.
Very similarly to
CK Louis.
And there you go.
So guys,
one last thing before I go. Please click the link below to go subscribe to my new channel. If you want to watch more silly, stupider stuff, do it, okay? Cut the crap. I've had it with this, okay? And thank you so much. And as always, bye-bye. Hey guys, you're only getting a fraction of the weekly shows. If you want a new motherfucking episode every day, subscribe on Patreon for as little as 2 bones. You get the patron-only Tuesday and Thursday shows, the Bookablega show where we look at important books, and the goddamn weekly behind-the-scenes show. And for only 25 bones, you could become a producer and get your name up here. Look at these people. These people make this show possible. If it wasn't for them, nothing. We don't have a show. We got nothing, and it's garbage. And we have to just leave. We have to just basically walk away. And we don't even really know where we're walking. That's the truly troubling part about all this. But please, become a patron today for as little as 2 bones, or 5 bones is another level, or 10, or you go the full 25 and you get up here. Big special thanks to these people. Love you guys so much.